Good to go. See some people still coming in, so I'm going to give everybody just a moment as you guys are gathering in today. Welcome in, guys. Let's see here. Got some people coming in. Hey, everybody. I hope everybody's having a wonderful Friday. I can't believe this week has gone by so quickly already. Awesome. All right. Well, we're going to go ahead and get started because, again, I know we're a little bit over, guys. So I do apologize again for that little bit of a delay there with some technical difficulties, but we're ready to go. So let's get started today. First and foremost, I want to thank AutoLeap for putting on this awesome training event. Really excited for the opportunity to teach you guys about maximizing profits by managing from the front counter. So that's what we'll be chatting more about today. So let's see here. Let's go to this next slide. Well, first and foremost, I'm sure you guys are wondering, who is this person on my screen? So my name is Sabrina Wilkerson. I am the Business Performance Analyst and Certified Trainer here with Elite Worldwide. Just a little bit of back information about me. Most of my career has been spent in customer service. I actually used to be a service advisor myself for a local independent shop where I'm located here in Georgia. And now I get the awesome opportunity to teach other service advisors as part of our main training program, which is the master's program. So I'm really excited to be able to help other service advisors. And yeah, it's just been such a rewarding career to be in part of in this industry. So the picture you see there, those are my two little girls that I live with here in Georgia. It's Harper and Riley, and they're my whole world. So just wanted to introduce myself a little bit. So now that I've told you a little bit about myself, I kind of mentioned I'm with Elite Worldwide, but just to kind of give you some information about who we are here at Elite, you're going to see there it says about our company, and I'm just going to go ahead and read that to you if it's okay. That's our mission statement here. Thanks, Hannah, for saying that. So about Elite, our mission is to use our team of the top experts in America to help automotive professionals reach their goals and live happier lives while elevating the industry that we love so much. This mission will be accomplished without ever compromising our ethics or the trust that is placed in us. So as that states there, we're just here to help other people within our industry be able to live happier lives. And then in doing that, we can then help our clients, right? And then a little bit more is we really believe that we are the company that lives by the principle of never putting money ahead of people. So everything that you hear today that I'm going to talk to you guys about, anytime you come to one of the Elite events, any of our trainings, we really focus in on that. I truly believe, guys, that if we put people first, the profits, that'll all inevitably come, right? But first and foremost, it starts with the person that we're dealing with. It starts with our clients, right? So everything you hear today is going to be based on that principle. And then a little bit more about what we do. We've been around for over 30 years. I think 34 years is what we celebrated last year. And in that time in this industry, we are helping to empower shop owners and service advisors by, again, elevating their careers. So we have coaching for our owners, and we have management training, and we have service advisor training. So that's a little bit about us here at Elite and what we do. Let's dive into it, okay? So the first thing that I really want to chat with you guys about today is our mindset, all right? So again, we're talking about how we can increase profits at the front counter as service advisors, right? Go ahead and type in the chat for me. I'm curious, how many of you guys joining me today are service advisors? How many of you guys are owners? And how many of you guys are managers? You guys should be able to just type in the chat for me and kind of let me know, and I'll see those coming through. But regardless of who you are, when you're at that front counter, you have to remember that you need to be in the right mindset, okay? Your mindset is going to be what really focuses in on how you go into work each and every day and how you handle those tough situations. So what I want you guys to think about first and foremost with having the right mindset is to be relational focused, okay? Build rapport with your clients. Anytime I'm talking to my service advisors in the master's program, I'm telling them, guys, we don't want to be transactional, right? We want to get away from being transactional and we want to be relational. So we should always be looking for opportunities to build relationships with our clients. As a previous service advisor myself, my goal was to learn as much information about my clients early on as possible. I don't think that it should take a year for us to know, about our clients, where they work, if they have kids, right? Maybe their hobbies, things like that. If we are looking and in the right mindset of building a relationship with our clients, then we should be focusing on that building rapport. We should be focusing on learning as much information to help build that trust as we can. Okay. The other thing I want you guys to do is to be open-minded. Okay. Not only in what we're going to talk about today, some of the training that we're going to go over here in this program, but with anything, right? Rather it's this training or another training, or maybe you're taking some feedback from someone, your counterpartner or your owner, your manager, right? I want you guys to take on this open-minded or more so this growth growth mindset that we're going to talk about here. So you're going to notice there's this cool little image on the side. They might be a little small. Hopefully you guys can see some of them, but we're going to dive into that. So no big deal if it's a little harder to read there. But you're going to see here it talks about a growth mindset on one side and a fixed mindset on the other side. Okay. So what I'm going to challenge you guys to do, what I hope that you guys do, is take on the growth mindset. But basically, to understand these a little bit further, the fixed mindset, it keeps you stuck. Okay. It keeps you thinking, I can't improve beyond what I already know or what I'm already doing. Right. It's basically saying to yourself, this is just who I am, right? I can't get any better than this. And it really does resist any kind of change. Whereas that growth mindset, this mindset is going to allow you to see challenges, rather it be challenges in our day to day, maybe more challenging conversations, whatever that is. It's going to allow you to see those challenges as opportunities to learn and to grow. Okay. So it's basically at that point saying to yourself, uh, I can learn from this, or how can I learn for this? What can I do differently? Right. So what I want to challenge you guys to do, and again, we're talking about mindset here at the front counter, is take on that growth mindset, be open to feedback, be open to changing things. Maybe something you do is working pretty good, okay? But then you're going to ask yourself, how can I be better? How can I go from good to great, right? So in order to do that, we have to take on that growth mindset. As it says there, growth starts with being coachable and open to change. So if you want to better help your clients, if you want to increase those profits, you've got to take that growth mindset on. Really quickly, I just want to give a quick other story. If Joe Marconi is on here by any chance, I'm so sorry, Joey. Hopefully I don't butcher this. Joe talks about this a lot at our Fly with the Eagles course. He talks about the shoe salesman story. Has anybody heard of that by chance? You guys can just write yes or no in that comment section. But to kind of simplify this a little bit, Joe talks about that story and he says there's these two shoe salesmen, okay? They're working with these different companies and they're both challenged with going to an island to sell shoes. One shoe salesman, he goes over to this island, right? And he sees the people that he's looking at. He's looking at his consumers, right? And he's like, no one's wearing shoes here. What's going on? This person doesn't have shoes. That person doesn't have shoes. He's like, what am I going to sell here? What am I going to do? So he goes back to the company and he's like, guys, like we have no chance here. Nobody's wearing shoes. This is not a market that we want to be in, right? Like we can't sell anything there. And there's this other shoe salesman, okay, and he's tasked with the same thing at the same island, selling them shoes. So he goes over to the island and he looks and he sees the same thing. No one's wearing shoes. And he goes back to his company and he's like, guys, great news. This is an untapped market. Nobody's wearing shoes. We have such an amazing opportunity here, right? So that just kind of paints that picture a little bit more for you guys, that this shoe salesman story who said like, hey, this is fantastic. This is a great opportunity, untapped market. This is a shoe salesman that has that growth mindset, where the other shoe salesman, he's got this more fixed mindset, right? So we need to take on that growth mindset. Hopefully that makes sense. And the last bullet point that I have for you guys on this one here is to apply yourself, right? Just 1% better every day. Has anybody read Atomic Habits in here? I feel like I've heard a lot of people in the industry reading that. If you haven't, I highly encourage you to read that. It's by James Clear. It's a really good book. No worries if you haven't, though. James talks about just getting 1% better every day. Okay. More specifically, he says, if you get 1% better each day for 1 year, you'll end up 37 times better by the time you're done. So those small, consistent improvements end up creating these significant results at the end. So I encourage you guys to just aim for 1% better every day. Just aim for just getting that 1% better, okay? And again, that just means taking on that growth mindset, asking yourself, what can I do differently to help my clients? Knowing that this is going to build relationships, this is going to build trust, and this is going to increase profits, right? Inevitably. So awesome. All right. So continuing on with the right mindset here, the other thing I want you guys to ask yourself as service advisors or even owners or managers, depending on who's in this room today, I want you guys to ask yourself or kind of know your why. Okay. Why? Why do you work where you work, right? When you're clear on your why, on what you do, it shapes how you show up every day. Okay. So some questions to ask yourself here is, again, why do you do what you do, right? Why do you work where you work? What's your shop's vision and mission? Do you know what your mission statement is, right? Do you know that? Why should customers choose your shop? All right. So again, when you know this, it'll shape what you do every day. Your purpose fuels your passion. I'm sure we've all heard that statement before, but it really does. And it helps push you through challenges. And it is going to make it easier for you to connect with your clients on a more deeper level, right? Once you know your why, the stronger it then becomes, and the stronger your impact becomes too. So maybe take a little screenshot there, or take a picture, and go back and ask yourself these questions and figure out why it is that you do this and why you work with where you work, right? The other thing I want you guys to do is to choose your paradigm, right? Choose the way in which you see people, right? So how do you see people first and foremost, right? How do you see situations? Do you see clients as challenges, or do you see them as opportunities, right? Do you believe that every interaction that you have on a day-to-day basis is a chance to build a strong relationship with your client? Okay, so choose the way in which you do things. And a couple of things that can help you as you're choosing that paradigm. One is to not be jaded, right? As I've mentioned to you guys early on, I used to be a service advisor, okay? And I know sometimes we get into these tough situations, or we're dealing with more challenges. It can be easy to kind of slip down and become a little bit of little jaded, right? But if you assume the worst, or you let these past situations weigh on you, you'll miss the opportunity and the chance to build a relationship and to build trust with clients. So what I would encourage you guys to do is show up to every conversation with a clear slate, right? Don't be jaded. Another one is don't take it personal, okay? We as service advisors, or just in the industry as a whole, we have to recognize that even for our longtime clients who've been coming to see us for a while, we've already built really great, strong relationships with them. The truth is that they don't really want to be in the shop, right? They didn't wake up that morning and say, what can I break on my car to go see Sabrina today, right? The reality is that they don't want to be there. And with that being said, there's a lot of anxiety going on within them, okay? And anxiety can take on different forms for different people, right? The way that it's shown, it could be, frustration, right? It could be really upset. So we just have to realize that that's there, that anxiety is there, and it's not about us, right? It's about the situation that they're in, and their anxiety is high. So don't take it personal. Just be that calm, professional person that helps them find the solution, right? And then have empathy. Remember that everyone is going through something in their life, right? We don't always know what that something is, okay? So try to understand, or at least recognize that there could be something going on for them. And so with that being said, we just need to make sure that we're being empathetic, and to recognize that, so that when we are handling these situations, when we are talking to clients, we can talk to them and respond with kindness and understanding so you can connect with people and be able to handle those challenges a little easier, right? Another thing it says here is to enjoy what you do, right? We all have a choice on what we're doing. Okay, we have a choice for where we work at. We have a choice for the career that we've entered. So just enjoy the fact that you're here, that you're in this amazing industry, that we get to connect with people every day. Enjoy that. Okay, enjoy what you do and take on that paradigm. Has anybody ever heard of Howard Schultz before? Anybody ever heard of Howard Schultz? He's the CEO of Starbucks, if not, so no big deal. But he's got this quote that he says that I personally really love. He said, "We are not in the coffee business serving people. We are in the people business serving coffee." And I like to kind of relate that to us here in the automotive industry. We are not in the car business fixing cars. We are in the people business fixing cars. Do you believe that? Right? Again, this is a shift in our paradigm. We have to believe in that, believe in what we're doing. Awesome. All right, so we're going to kind of shift gears a little bit here, guys. And again, we're talking about maximizing profits and managing that from the front counter. So what I wanted to give you guys is, and talk about a little bit also, is the power of having a procedure, right? When you follow a process, maybe it's a phone process, maybe it's an intake of client process. It's how you transfer your tickets to your technicians and how they go about the next step, right? It's how you present recommended services. Whatever we're talking about here, right? There's lots of processes that we've got in our shops. But when we have something like that kind of thought through, we have a process set out, a framework for that. It removes the guesswork and helps you help your clients, with more confidence. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. And first and foremost, we're going to talk about why procedure matters at the front counter. And I just talked to you guys a little bit about that, but even more than that, I believe that consistency builds trust, right? So I'm going to go back to my experience as a service advisor for just a moment here. But what I found was, and my owner at one point, I remember he actually pulled us into an office and kind of chatted about this. He was like, "Hey, if someone were to call in and ask for a price on, let's say a battery, right? Now, obviously, we're not supposed to give prices over the phone, and we're going to talk about that here in a moment. But he's like, let's just play the scenario out. You got them in here. You're presenting this price. What would that look like?" Okay. So he had me go through and we kind of role played what the situation would look like. My situation and how I presented it, we come to find out was a little bit different than how my counterpartner went about the situation and presented that. And what we found with that is, we were not consistent in what we were delivering to our clients. So if they were to call me, they might get something a little different than if they called my counterpartner. And we want to make sure that no matter who they talk to in our shop, they're getting the same thing, right? So consistency builds trust because they know no matter who they talk to at our shop, they're going to get the same, right? They're going to get treated the same. They're going to get the same process. They're going to get the same quote, right? Or the same price, right? So when it comes to procedures at the front counter, it really does build trust. The other thing that it does for us is confidence, right? Builds confidence. If you're just winging it, you might be stumbling a little bit, right? You might be using some more filler words. There might be some ums, some uhs in there. Or maybe you're getting off track and you're like, "Oh, I forgot where I was in my presentation." So by having a process, this procedure, it will help build your confidence because you know, okay, I am here, but I need to go here next in my conversation, right? So it helps you go through and have a smoother presentation talking to your clients. So it's definitely going to help build upon that confidence. It helps control the conversation, right? Of course, we want to build that rapport. We want to get to know our clients, but we also have to make sure we're uncovering information to help them, right? So it's going to help you to control that conversation again, because all right, again, right? We're here. I need to help get us to here, all right? So I know what I need to do in between that to get to that spot, to get to the solution for the client to help them. So it's going to help you control the conversation. It improves your closing ratio and customer satisfaction. Again, kind of goes back to that consistency, right? It goes back to how you treat clients, the way that you answer the phone, the way that you present information. Those things are going to help with your closing ratio and your customer satisfaction. It supports training and accountability, right? It holds you accountable for following this process, right? For showing that you have that aptitude to apply the training that you learned and the accountability to continuously follow through. So that's some reasons why procedures at the front counter matter. Now, the other thing that I wanted to equip you guys today was an actual procedure that can help you guys. So what I wanted to share with you guys is phone skills fundamentals. So some things that we should do when we're answering those calls from clients coming in. So first and foremost, we're going to talk about, the fundamentals and things that we should do prior to picking up the phone with our clients. Okay, some procedure for that. So the first thing I want to tell you guys is that the caller wants a solution, right? They want us to provide finality. So before you pick up the phone and you hear that phone ringing, just think to yourself, right? That mindset, that paradigm shift. Think, okay, I am going to help this client. I'm going to provide them a solution for whatever they're calling with today. You guys heard me mention anxiety just a tad bit earlier. I kind of brushed over it really quickly there. But we need to remember that the caller is anxious. Once again, they didn't think, oh, what can I break on my car today so I can go see Sabrina at the shop? They have high anxiety, right? They don't really want to be there. I know we have got great clients and sometimes they do stop in to see us, but when there's a car repair, right, they're anxious. They don't know how much it's going to cost. They don't know how long it's going to take, right? So their anxiety is pretty high. And something I like to tell the master's students is our number one job is to lower anxiety. Okay. I would encourage you guys, if you're taking notes through this course, write that down. Our number one job as service advisors is to help lower that anxiety. So we have to recognize that it's there and we need to go ahead and lower that. Okay. And there's going to be things that we can do to help lower that, which is what we're going to chat more about here in just a moment. Okay. Let's see. The price is all they know to ask, and it starts a conversation. I love this one. I was talking to an owner one time, and they're like, I don't really like the term price shoppers, right? And we kind of chatted a little bit more about it, and I totally understood where he was. For the sake of ease of explaining it, we do often call them price shoppers, right? But the reality is that they don't know what else to ask us when they call in, right? First and foremost, we talked about it, their anxiety is high already. Their anxiety might be high just picking up that phone call in general, but then they don't know what else to ask, right? They don't know to ask, how long we've been in business. They don't know to ask about you, the qualifications of your technicians. They don't know to ask more about you and your warranty and how they're at the right place with the right people, right? These are just questions that they don't know how to ask. As consumers, we've just kind of been trained that when we pick up the phone, we're calling a shop, we should ask for price. So don't just get into that mindset of, oh, it's just another price shopper. They're just calling in for price again. They're not going to bring it in, right? Shift that mindset, shift that paradigm, and recognize that your clients just don't know what else to ask, and we have to help them with that, okay? The other thing is know why they should choose you and your company. I talked about this a little bit ago, right? Know your why. But we do this thing in the master's program. It's called our PSP, or our personal sales presentation. And basically, we tell the advisors, let's say you were to pick up the phone, okay, and you've got a first-time anxious caller on the other end. Maybe they've been taken advantage of. Maybe again, they're just anxious, right? What are you going to say to them to help them see they're at the right place with the right people? Okay. What's your why? So we just ask them to kind of jot it down, right? Some people come up with really long PSPs, sometimes it's shorter, but it's focused in on, what are you going to say to that person? How are you going to develop the muscle memory of knowing, okay, what should I say to this client to help them see they're at the right place with the right people? So that goes back to you figuring out what your why is. And then also know the benefits of your services by heart, okay? Or WIIFM, little radio station there, but it's WIFM. And on everybody's forehead, okay, we have what's in it for me, that WIIFM, that WIFM there. As consumers, right? As people, you and I, we all want to know what is in it for us. How do we win, right? In this example, again, we're talking about phone skills. So we're talking about picking up the phone. And in most cases, what we're trying to do is convert them from a price shopper or a caller calling in for price into an appointment. So we have to be thinking of, we're probably trying to tell them, hey, let's come in for some testing. Let's get it looked at. Let's figure out exactly what's going on. So we have to know, what are the benefits to the client of coming in and letting us perform that testing versus just giving a price quote over the phone. Okay. So I'm really curious from you guys, again, in the chat, I'm going to be pulling it up here. What are some benefits that you guys can think of for having the client come in and perform testing versus just giving a price over the phone? I'm going to wait a little bit here and see some responses that come in. What are some benefits, right? How does the client win if they come in and have us perform testing versus just giving them that price quote? Is there any benefits that you guys can think of? They get to know us first. Yeah, absolutely, right? I love that. Offer free, quick safety check. Tammy, that's awesome. Love that. Greater likelihood of the testing than leading to earning their repair business. Yeah. Yeah. Awesome, Ben. Thank you. Any other ones that you guys can think of? Any other benefits, right? So if you're on the phone with your client and they're asking you, well, can you at least give me a ballpark price? Remember, we want to focus in on the benefits of having them come in. Any other benefits you guys can think of? These are good ones, guys. Awesome. More time to establish trust and credibility. Absolutely, Ben, right? Invite them in. They can get to know you a little bit more. Absolutely. Yeah. These are great. Thanks, guys, for sharing. Some other ones I think of too is it's going to save them time and money, right? By ensuring the vehicle gets fixed right the first time. The last thing we want to do is just throw parts at the vehicle based on a code they got somewhere, right? Or something even somebody else told them because we don't know, we haven't looked at it ourselves. So instead of just throwing parts at the vehicle, we're going to save them time and money by inspecting it first, right? Another one I like to think of is peace of mind, right? Peace of mind that your vehicle is going to be fixed right the first time. So remember to talk in terms of those benefits when we're talking to the client. Awesome. Thank you, guys. Another thing here is to follow a procedure and be a great detective. So as I just talked to you guys about, procedures can very much help us, right? And they can help our clients. So have a procedure. We are going to share some awesome resources with you guys, which go over these things that we're talking about. So whether it's following this procedure or developing your own procedure, whatever that looks like, have one or develop one, okay? And follow that so that you can create confidence and consistency. And then the other part says, be a great detective, okay? Every great service advisor is a great detective. And what that means, guys, is that you have to ask really good fact-finding questions. Remember, the first bullet point here is that the caller wants a solution, and you got to provide that finality. And you can't provide that finality or that solution until you've done and asked some really good questions to learn more about their needs and their concerns, okay? So just like any great doctor will ask you good questions in regards to what's going on with your body or a concern that you have or some symptoms, you also as service advisors have to make sure you're being good detectives and asking those good questions before you ever go into, hey, let's bring it in for an inspection and here's the benefits and why we should do that. Before we get to that part, guys, we should be asking questions first and foremost, okay? And then sell yourself first. Not on the street corner, okay? Let's not be doing that. But sell yourself in terms of kind of like Ben here, establishing trust and credibility, right? For someone to want to come to you, to come to your shop, they've got to first and foremost like you, right? So we have to make sure we're selling ourselves. We have to make sure some things we're going to talk about here on the next slide, but make sure we're building rapport, we're personable, we're getting to know our clients, right? We're smiling, all these things so that we can make sure that they like us. And therefore, once they like us, they're going to trust us, right? They're going to view us as these credible experts, but it starts with them liking us, which really starts with building rapport with them. Other thing I have on here is to paint mental pictures and use minor closes, okay? So what I mean by painting mental pictures, guys, is, well, one is analogies, right? If you guys are not using analogies to kind of explain things to clients, I highly encourage you to do that. We as humans are visual creatures. So anytime you can, of course, show them a picture, that goes a long way. But sometimes, over the phone, we need to just paint that mental image for them. Rather, it's explaining the process on what it looks like to bring the vehicle into us and kind of the expectations they can expect. But it can also be, let's use for an example I mentioned earlier, maybe somebody got a code, right? Maybe they took their vehicle to a parts store because their check engine light came on and they told them they need spark plugs, right? Like, hey, you need to get your spark plugs replaced. So now they're calling in, and how many of you guys have experienced that, by the way? Has anybody experienced that? If you haven't, cool, awesome. But I think most of us have gotten that call before, right? And so what I mean by paint a mental image in this situation, one thing I personally really love to use is the zip code analogy. Has anybody ever heard of that zip code analogy before when we're talking about a code scan? Zip code analogy. I'm going to tell you guys what it is, okay? So the zip code analogy basically says, like you're explaining to your client on the other end of the phone why you can't give them just a price for spark plugs, and it's saying, hey, Mr. Customer, basically that code scan that you got there, it's like a zip code, okay? If you were trying to invite me to your house for a birthday party and you gave me your zip code, that's going to get me in the general area of where I need to be, but it's not going to get me to your house, to your street, right? And so that code that you got from the parts store, it's kind of that same thing. It gets us in the general area or maybe tells us general components that we should look at, but it doesn't tell us exactly which component has failed or even which component caused that failure. Okay. So that again is the zip code analogy. If you've never heard of that, hopefully you had some time to jot it down, or you can reach out to me and I'll explain that a little bit further too. But I love to use analogies such as that one to help paint mental images for our clients. Okay. Helps them see it differently, right? And then minor closes are things that are like small, like little yeses, little temperature checks, just to make sure the client's on the same page with you. So after I explain that zip code analogy, I would follow up with something like, does that make sense? Or did I explain that okay? Right? And then I would kind of go on to the next part there. So use those to help you guys control that conversation too. And then speaking of that, it says, never allow the caller to control the conversation. The mind is binary. And this is just reminding us that we kind of have to walk the client into the right direction, right? Lead them into the right direction. That's going to help us help them provide that solution, provide that finality. So sometimes if we just kind of let them go and talk, right, we may end up on a whole other conversation that doesn't get us where we need to go to help them with that solution. So control that conversation. And the way that we can do that is by asking those really good questions. Okay. At that moment, they're going to be listening to your questions so that they can respond to it. So it's going to keep the conversation on track. Also says, view challenging callers as opportunities. I love this one, right? I mentioned to you earlier your paradigm and your mindset, and I know I keep going back to that, but it's so important, especially with this. Don't view those challenging calls as like losses, right? Or let it get you down and let it get you jaded. Instead, view them as opportunities to grow from and learn and have that growth mindset of, "Ooh, okay, maybe I didn't handle that the best. What could I have done differently? What can I do differently next time to help the caller, right? Or wow, I really was able to help that caller. That was a great opportunity to learn how to do this a little bit better, right? Or do this a little differently. Record your calls for review. I love listening to advisors' phone calls as part of the master's program. I love when owners send those over to me. I love when advisors get to hear those for themselves. I know it can be a little bit awkward to hear yourself talking. Okay, I've been there, but it really is important because it'll help you assess, here are my strengths. Okay, what are my growth opportunities? Let me hone in on these growth opportunities so I can get better for my client, right? So I can better assist them. So if your system records phone calls, I highly encourage you to kind of ask your owner to listen to those. Maybe you had that challenging call that you weren't able to convert into appointment. Jot down the time and the day and ask your owner to pull that call so you guys can listen to it together so you can figure out what you can do differently to help your client. Okay. Love phone call reviews. Awesome. All right, so we've talked about what to do before the phone call. Now we're going to go into some phone skills procedures. So some things that we're going to do once we've then answered the phone, okay? First and foremost, we are going to smile and follow a procedure, right? We've already talked about how important it is to have a procedure, how this procedure will help in our clients, but then again in our profits. But we do need to make sure that we are smiling, okay? Tonality can definitely be heard on the other end. So if you just answer and you say, Elite Worldwide, this is Sabrina, you're not smiling. The client's going to hear that, right? Thank you for choosing Elite Worldwide. This is Sabrina. How may I help you? Such a big difference. And the client's going to hear that. They're going to hear that you're upbeat. They're going to think that you're friendly, right? Remember, we have to sell ourselves first. So this is really where it starts. So make sure you guys are smiling when you pick up the phone. At the master's program, we give out mirrors to all of our service advisors so that they can put those up and remember to smile. So I encourage you guys to get one. My kids keep stealing mine, so I have just like a little other mirror that I've got to put up here. I have it right here beside me so that even when I'm taking calls from clients, I remember to smile because I know how important it is. I had an advisor tell me one time, she was like, Sabrina, I thought I was smiling on the other end. And then I got back and I had that mirror there to remind me. And I just happened to look down at it one day and I realized I had RBF. Okay. If you don't know what that is, I'm not going to elaborate on today's call. But she was like, I had a little bit of RBF and I noticed it. I saw myself in the mirror and I started to smile. And she was like, it made a big difference in myself, quite honestly. But then I noticed also as the call continued, I noticed a shift in my client too. So just remember that, okay? Remember how important it is to smile. Answer the call with a courteous salutation. Provide the caller with your name and end your greeting with a question, right? You guys just kind of heard how I like to do it. Thank you for choosing Elite Worldwide. This is Sabrina. How may I help you? Right? Again, I sound friendly. I'm upbeat. I'm giving them my name because, again, I want to build that rapport from the very beginning. I want to start this relationship. I want them to like me. They got to know who they're talking to. If you're just saying Elite Worldwide when you answer your phone, they don't know who they're talking to, right? So make sure that you're providing them with your name and then end your greeting with a question. It kind of starts that, that control, that conversation, leading it to the right way so that we can help provide a solution, okay? And then use the caller's name and use it often, okay? So we've now given them our name. So of course we should be asking for their name pretty early on to build the rapport. And then once you have that caller's name, use it often. We encourage you guys to use it at least 3 times, something we talk to our service advisors about. If you've ever read How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie, Dale Carnegie says that the sweetest sound to a person in any language is our name. So use their name and use it at least 3 times in that conversation. Take notes and repeat statements made by the caller. Okay, taking notes, of course, just shows we want to gather all that information for our technician, and repeating statements back is for clarity, so we can make sure that we've taken down the right information, right? If they said it's making a roaring noise and not a grinding noise, we want to make sure we took down the right notes. Avoid dead air and taking other calls. Be careful with hold. There was a study done a long time ago. Oh, gosh, I can't even tell you exactly how long, but it was quite a while ago. And I think it said clients hang up or people hang up after like 17 seconds. And this was like, again, quite a long time ago. So I can only imagine what that number looks like now, right? So just be careful. Try not to put people on hold and try to avoid that dead air, okay? Offer options. So when you're going and you're asking for the appointment, offer options on when they can bring in their vehicle. One is to bring their vehicle in now. I recognize that not everybody can do this. Sometimes our schedules are a week or 2 out. I get it. But excuse me, if you can offer to bring it in now for them, if you've got availability, try to give them that now time frame. But always try to at least give 2 options, such as, yeah, I've got today available right now, actually, or I can get you in later at 2 p.m. Which of those would work best for you? Okay, so offer 2 appointment times. And then close, close, and close by continuing to ask for the sale. So this is just saying if you have that client who's like, well, can you at least give me a ballpark, or so-and-so gave me a quote, can't you just give me like a rough idea, right? And you're going through and you're kind of answering those objections and you're helping them see the benefit of coming in first. Once you do that, once you get that minor close for them, go back and ask for the appointment, right? So like I said, Mr. Customer, I can get you in now actually, or I can get you in later at 2. Which of those will work best for you, right? Kind of helping to move the conversation on. Don't want to have that dead air. Don't want to have silence after that, right? Reconfirm the appointment time, the service, and your location. They got to know where they're going, right? I had a service advisor tell me one time that their address in Google wasn't correct, and so clients weren't going to the right place. So they started texting over their location. I love that idea, but just make sure they know where they're going, okay? Ask for the caller's phone number. I know a lot of us have caller ID and we tend to go based off that. I like to pull up the profile of them while I'm, seeing the call and the caller ID and the number there. But be sure that you're asking what their phone number is, what the best contact number for them is, okay? I live in a military town, and so oftentimes what would come up on my caller ID there would be a number for on base, right? And what I found was a lot of them are leaving around 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And so if I was trying to call them after 3, I couldn't get a hold of them. And then they were calling me at like 4:30. Hey, I haven't heard from you. It was because I didn't have the correct phone number. And I've heard this from other advisors too in college towns, right? Or just in general. So let's make sure that even if we see the number on the caller ID, we're asking them for their phone number. With repeat customers who are calling to schedule a service, review their vehicle history and recommend additional services as necessary. So if you go back in their history, right, we should know more about them. We should know the things that they approved and that they declined. If there was maybe some maintenance services they held off on last time and they're about to come in, say, hey, Mr. Customer, I see that we quoted a brake inspection or brake fluid service, excuse me, the last time you were here. Do you want to go ahead and take care of that while you're here? We can definitely get it done for you the same day, right? Just remind them of those things. It shows like, hey, we know information about you, right? We keep up with your vehicle, but also it kind of goes back and validates the importance of doing those services that we recommended before. And then guys, remember when it comes to phone calls that the goal is not to give price over the phone. Instead, the goal is to make an appointment and get the vehicle in for one of our professional technicians, our certified technicians, to do a really thorough professional inspection, right? As we talked about the benefits, peace of mind, right? Save the client time and money, more time to establish trust and credibility, like Ben said. The goal is to get them in for that so we can really get to know them, really get to know their concerns, really get to know their vehicle, build a relationship with them rather than just giving a quote on the phone and possibly never hearing from them again. We want them to come in. We want them to be a long-term client with us, okay? So remember that when you're taking in these phone calls. Awesome. All right. Is there any questions that came up before I move on? I know we're about that time where you guys are going to be hopping into your next session here. So I just want to take a few moments and see if you guys have any questions before I keep going. Any questions that you guys have? I'm going to share this next screen with you guys, so I'm waiting to see if any questions come up. But as I mentioned to you guys earlier, we're going to have some awesome resources for you. We've put together an email that you guys can get where it's going to have the daily tracking sheet for tracking lost leads, right? And appointments or excuse me, phone calls that we were able to convert into appointments. So he just gave you guys a process procedure that's also going to be included in this resources that you guys can get. But then there's going to be a tracking sheet where you guys can then look at, okay, I'm getting these phone calls. Takes a lot to get this phone to ring. How many of these phone calls am I able to convert to appointments, right? And that'll tell you based off your percentage, based off how many lost leads or conversions that you've made, this will help you identify, okay, is there growth opportunity here? Should I be doing something different to help my clients convert them to appointments? So definitely scan this QR code so you can get that tracking sheet. You can get what we talked about today. There's going to be creating the ultimate customer experience and an advisor checklist. So I'll leave this up here for just a moment. Take a picture of it or just simply scan that QR code. As you see here too, we are having an Amplify special where we are offering 50% off enrollment fees for any of our core services, which is fantastic opportunity. I've never seen anything like this kind of special before. So I definitely would encourage you guys to check that out. If you're interested in learning a little bit more about what Elite does, about coaching, or for my service advisors, maybe you want to learn a little bit more about the master's program, where that's a 6-month training program, guys. We take things to the next level, okay? You'll have me as your instructor, excuse me. You'll have your peers with you to help you, so other service advisors. It's really like rubber meets the road. We dive into this even further. We talk about, selling repairs, selling testing. I mean, there's so much involved in that 6 months. But if you're interested in taking that training to the next level and reaching out and seeing if it'd be a good fit for you and your shop, please reach out to me. I'd be happy to connect and tell you more about the program and get to know you and see if it would be a good fit. Here on this next slide, if you guys didn't get a chance to take a picture of that other slide, just let me know in the chat and I can pull it back up. But this kind of talks a little bit more about our services, right? We do one-on-one coaching for our owners in our Top Shop program. We also have our service advisor training, our master's program, which again, I'm the lead instructor for. And then we have our peer group, our pro service group. So you can see a little bit more information about those here. But again, awesome enrollment specials that we got going on. We've got those on the screen here. Feel free to just take a picture. I know there's 3 QR codes. So if you want to go ahead and try to scan all of those right now, absolutely you can. But if for some reason you don't get a time, just take a little quick picture of it. If you guys go and you get the resources page, if you schedule an appointment with me by Sunday, okay, this Sunday, you can get this special enrollment. So definitely, at the very least, I would encourage you guys to schedule an appointment with me. That way you can get this awesome Amplify special that we've got going on and learn a little bit more about our programs. Awesome. I'll leave this up here for just a second. Is there any questions that have come through? Any questions? Awesome. Very good. Very good. I'll keep going then. Well, guys, I know I packed you full of a lot of information in such a short time, so I appreciate you guys being here with me on this lovely Friday. If you guys do, again, have any questions that come up, feel free to reach out. Thank you again to AutoLeap and for putting on this Amplify. I love little training events that we get to do, so I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your day if you have any other courses. And again, thank you so much for being here. Bye, guys. Thank you.